Hello everyone, it is Wednesday, November 20th, and today we are going to be doing bowl cozies. Oh, hi Helen, you won the key fobs. I have your name written on a piece of paper. So if you can email me at hi@sewwithtarareed.com and give me your mailing address, I will get those key fobs ordered and out to you. So one of the things I am learning as we go, well, you're in it with me as I'm learning, but I have been giving out a couple of prizes and I thought I would be able to respond because I can always respond to comments, but you can't respond to live chats because it's no longer live. So now how I talked to a couple friends that do this and I'm like, so how do you do it? Like, how do you let people know? Because I had put Helen's name in the top comment last week, but she never reached out to me because she never saw it because I couldn't like tag her. So they said, just do it the next live. So today, if you stay to the end, you're going to have a chance to win some templates from Creative Grids. And then you're going to have to come next week to find out if you won. And I know that is the night before Thanksgiving and that everyone won't be able to come. So just check it. Like if you are here at the end of tonight and you can't come live next week, just check the beginning of next week's live and I will let you know. I'll announce the winner. You don't have to be on live. That would be ridiculous, especially the night before Thanksgiving. Because I don't know if I will be the only one that is here that night or not. All right. Hi, Marina. Hi, Suzanne, Mary. My ladies from my Saturday. So Saturday, I did my first live members only event and for my Sew with Tara Reed membership members. And we were here for an hour and 45 minutes. I kept forgetting to change the camera. Well, I think I did it twice, maybe 3 times. They were so nice and patient and I learned a lot and they learned a lot and they're just going to keep getting better. And it has also inspired me to do, I think like 10 technique videos that I'm still working on editing and uploading into the membership. So if you haven't heard about the membership, we're going to start in a minute. But if you haven't heard about the membership, I'm going to put a link in the chat. You can try it for $1 for like a week. Okay. All right. So I just put the link in the chat. If you want to check that out, there's lots of fun stuff, lots and lots of projects in there. Everything is ad-free. There's going to be exclusive content. The replay for the live, it was an exclusive pattern. I'm also doing tons of like techniques that are only going to be in there. But let's get started on bowl cozies. Bowl cozies are one of my absolute favorite things. One of my friends made one of these for me a few years ago. And she's like, oh, everybody loves them. And I was like, okay, I don't know what this is about. Now my husband and I use them every single day. It is cute, number one. But it is also a built-in pot holder. So if you're putting anything in the microwave, you put this in with it, and then you never have to touch a hot bowl. You just pull it out, take it wherever you're gonna go, keep it in there. It's also great for ice cream, like things that are really cold. People will use it for hot or cold. And one of my earlier videos and most popular videos was how to make them the way she taught me to make them, which was have these square ends. So the bowl still goes in there, but it's got squared ends and it's a lot more complicated. It's a little bit more complicated because you're having to draw all the darts. And it's also more complicated because sewing over so many layers of stuff in points is harder and you might break your needle more. But I'm going to give you tips for how to not break your needle. But if you do, just know you're in the Bowl Cozy Needle Breaking Club. Okay, so we are going to make them with these curved things. All right, so, oh yes, Christy, no more burning fingers. You have to add this to your list of obsessive things that you're doing. So now I'm going to show you all the stuff. And oh, I have to tell you this funny story. So one of my best friends, her daughter is obsessed. She's 8 and she's apparently obsessed with watching my videos. And she asked her mom, can I do a video? Can I do a craft video? And my friend's like, sure. And so she's like holding her phone but she did this, and she's like, here's what you're going to need, and this is what you're going to need to do. And my friend's like, where'd you learn to do that? She's like, Tara, this is how you do it. So I'm so excited that I'm inspiring 8-year-old YouTubers. So let's talk about what we need to make these cool bowl cozies. Obviously, we need fabric for both sides. We'll talk about that in a minute. We need 2 layers of batting. And this is the Creative Grids template, and it comes with both sizes. So this is the one that I use the most. This is the one that holds the little bowl I've been showing you. This one makes a really big bowl cozy. Like that's going to fit the serving bowl for your mashed potatoes for Thanksgiving. Okay, so you can make either of those sizes, and it comes with both templates. Then I always keep it in a little page protector because you want to keep the directions, because it tells you exactly what size fabric that you need for making each of these. But another thing I love about Creative Grids is if you lose this, you just scan. They have these little QR codes on almost maybe all of their rulers. I'm not 100% sure if it's all of them, but many of them. So you can just scan that and it'll take you to their website, to the directions for how to use exactly what you have in your hot little hands. So that's cool. They also make pre-cut batting. I think she said this is sold out till January, which is a bummer, but it's just a kind of convenient. And I do have links under the video to find these if you want them. It's just one less thing you have to cut if you want to go that direction. And if you get pre-cut batting, you don't even necessarily need the templates because you could just sew based on this. So I just wanted to show you that. Then I'm going to be using a rotating mat that spins because it's fun and it's going to make it much easier. I think I need a ruler. Yes, I do need a ruler, a pencil and or a Sharpie, rotary cutter, pins and clips, and cotton. Cotton, 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 everything cotton. Did you hear me? Every single thing cotton. It's really important. Okay, back to my stuff. So the reason cotton, cotton, cotton is so important is because you can put these in the microwave and you do not want your things to melt, right? So if you use a fabric that has a metallic thread, like metallic threads in it, that could catch fire. That's probably like the worst thing you could do is a metallic fabric or a fabric with metallic. But even thread could melt. So you want to get cotton thread, and I just ran to Joann Fabric and grabbed what they had for colors that I wanted. And I just wanted to show you, like, these are 2 Gutermann. I hope I'm saying that right. And you'll notice they're different colors. So their cotton always has this like orangey yellow color. So that's how I know that that's a cotton fabric or cotton thread. This one is a blend. So this is polyester, or it might be 100% polyester. Yes, 100% polyester. Then this is a Coats & Clark. So just most companies do change colors if based on the material of the thread. So just whatever kind of thread you like, figure out which one is cotton and make sure you use that so it doesn't melt. You'll also need an iron sewing machine, obviously. Okay, hi Linda, how are you? She made it, she made it. Okay, let me grab, I'm gonna talk a little bit about fabrics. So, no, first, wait, sorry. I have my notes, but now I'm going out of order a little bit. We're gonna talk about batting because this to me can be the most confusing part of it all. You need to have 100% cotton batting, but some batting says white cotton batting. And so to me, I was like, oh, I can use that. But then let me look at it more closely. This, if it says with stabilizing scrim, it probably has polyester in it. So do not use that. This is the kind of batting you would use for a quilt. Unless the batting says 100% natural cotton or 100% cotton batting, do not use it. So cotton batting, not good enough. 100% cotton, you know, Wrap and Zap. This is from Pellon. They basically market it to do things like this. You can make little bags to make your baked potatoes, to do these things. This is the Gypsy Quilter. The people that own Creative Grids also own, I think, Gypsy Quilter. And I just want to show you really quick the difference. I've made them with both, but I really am liking this Gypsy Quilter. It's designed, it's called Hoop Easy. So it's designed for machine embroidery. And it's going to hoop easy, apparently. But if you look at it, compared to this, it's a little bit thinner. I hope you can, hold on, let me find a better cut edge. Okay, can you see this? You see that? Somebody tell me if you can see that. I'm going to zoom in. It's the beauty of being your own cameraman. So this is the Gypsy Quilter. And this is the Wrap and Zap. So both are going to work. One is just going to be a little bit easier to sew with because it's thinner, but it's still going to do the job. So this is what we are going to work with. I also love that it comes on a roll. It is 18 inches wide. So what you need for, turn this around. So for the small one that we're going to do, you need an 11-inch square. You need two 11-inch squares of batting. For the larger one, you need two 16-inch squares. So what I did was I just unrolled it. I cut the squares. I'm not going to make you watch me cut that. So I have my square, and then this is the size that I had left. And as luck would have it, this is the perfect size for next week when we're going to be doing mug rugs. I'll talk about that later, but mug rugs will be made with that. So now we're going to talk about the fabric that we're going to use. So you can do all kinds of things. You can do the same fabric on both sides. And one thing I love about this is they're reversible. So you can just flip it like that and put whichever side you want on the inside or the outside. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Hello, Iron Stitches. If I pause, it's because I'm jack of all trades here. I'm doing all the cameras and I'm also checking the chat. The 12-inch, Marina, the 12-inch will work for this size, which to me is the most used size, but you can get the 18-inch if you want as well. She had gotten some of this Gypsy Quilter batting. So you could do two pieces of fabric that are just a piece of fabric, and one for the inside, one for the outside. That's going to be your easiest. Now you'll notice this is directional fabric. And if you watch many of my videos, you know I love to tell you the pros and cons of using directional fabric. And of course, there are pros and cons with this project as well. So I'm going to show you with this one. I hope my son's not watching. I made him this one for Christmas. We're from Philadelphia. Go Eagles. So I got some Eagles fabric and I just did a piece on each side. So it looks great from the top because everything's in the right direction. But if you look at the sides, it's right side up on this side, but it's upside down on this side, which isn't a huge deal because it's not like you're really staring at the sides of this, but it's just food for thought, something to think about. Another thing I wanted to comment on for this is if you use licensed fabric, so sports, Disney, Harry Potter, like movie stuff, kid stuff, always look at the selvage. So this fabric, whoever made it, licensed it from the NFL. They paid a lot of money to be able to do so. And it says right here, this is for individual consumption only. Any unauthorized use is prohibited and illegal. Do not believe, let me go back, I'm going to lecture you. Do not believe what you hear and see on Etsy or in a lot of Facebook groups, okay? This is one of my core things is legality of this stuff, because I make a living by people respecting my copyrights. And so I want other people to understand what the legal jeopardy could be if they are like, oh, everyone else is selling stuff made out of Eagles fabric on Etsy, so it's totally fine. It's actually not fine at all. You can use this for yourself. So I can make this and give it to my son, and that's totally legal because it's individual use. If I put this in an Etsy shop and sell it, or take it to a craft show and sell it, I risk the lawyers for the NFL coming after me. And I can assure you they have more money for lawyers than I do. So just be aware of that if you like to sew and sell things. It's very tempting because everybody wants Disney and everything else, but just, they have more money for lawyers than you. Okay, that's the end of my little, please don't get in legal jeopardy chat. So get my board back up here. So this is one fabric. So once, if we put it on the outside, one side would be upside down, one side wouldn't be. But I loved doing this little four-way with it, where I did the two patch. So this is how I did that. So the directions say you need an 11-inch square for the outside and the inside. So I basically took 4 pieces of fabric and made sure that after I sewed them together, it was an 11-inch square. So I needed 2, wait a minute, that's not right. 5, like 5 1/4, because you're only losing a 1/4 inch. 5 1/4, 4 of those. My notes were wrong. So you can have a lot of fun with that. You could do, so this one, I just did 2 fabrics. You could do 4 different fabrics and kind of alternate the colors. Let's see, what else did I cut out? Do it like that. Do it like that. 3 different fabrics. So lots of fun ways to do that. Now I will tell you, the first time when I made this one, I made way more work for myself, because what I did was, I'm just telling you so you don't do it. I took this template and I added a 1/4 inch to the folded edge, and I cut each of these pieces of fabric to the curve. And then when I was done that, I thought, wow, that was crazy, Tara. It would be a lot easier if you just made the square already put together and then folded it and cut it. So I don't want you to go down the longer road. Yep, no Pellin, you did not. And part of the reason we're going back to the copyright stuff and the legality of sewing and selling with big brand licensed fabric is when they license, like they're licensing that design for fabric, and they have probably licensed to somebody else for, say, aprons. So if people go buy the fabric and start selling a bunch of aprons, that puts the NFL in a sticky wicket with the people who have licensed it for aprons, because they're supposed to be the only people that can sell aprons. So that's part of why it is that way. But let's get back to sewing. So we're going to use this fabric, and I'm going to put this fabric on the inside because I think directional looks really cute on the inside. Not as much of a fan of it on the outside. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold this in quarters. Apparently I'm shedding on my fabric. And just really finger press it. You want it to have a nice crease. Got to make sure I'm going to be able to spin with wild abandon here. All right, let me zoom in a little bit more. Get this where I want it. Okay, so it's folded. Now I feel like I'm doing a magic trick. You can see the folds, 1, 2. Now we are going to take the template, and it says folded edge, folded edge. So I'm going to line them up as directed with the folded edges. If you aren't quite on the edge, it's not quite going to work as well. So really try and get that on the folded edge. But this has great, they have this patented grip, which is great. But then you're also going to be holding your hand and keep your hand down flat. I would also recommend, especially if you're going to do a lot of these, to put a new rotary blade in your cutter, because it is harder if your blade isn't really sharp. It's a little harder, especially to cut curves, and it's definitely going to be harder to cut curves when we get to the fleece part. Let's see. Ooh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at comments. So Leela did a, what did you do? She bought fabric that said it was 100% cotton and did a burn test to confirm, and it didn't pass. Wow, that's scary. Tell me how long you put it in. I have had, like my mother-in-law, I make flaxseed things that, you know, those heat pads. And if you put them in too long, it will burn. But that also adds heat from the inside. So while it's not supposed to burn, I don't know, did you put it in for like 20 minutes? Then that might. I have never had that problem. Okay, so new rotary blade. I always start on a dart and cut that off. And then I twist this so that I'm starting straight. Sometimes I can get it to do the curve well in one cut. Sometimes I can tell I'm not quite staying on the edge of the template, so I will do 2 cuts. And I always do 2 to 3 cuts for the fleece. So let's just see how this goes. And keep your fingers back because you don't want to slip and cut your fingers off. So you just go slow. Okay, I'm doing it. And see how that cut nicely because I just changed the blade. Close the blade. I just changed the blade the other day. When I was making my samples, I had kind of a dull blade, and this never cut all the way. It was like 2 little pieces, and I always had to go over it a few times. So sharp blade is the key to success here. And then you just cut that other dart. And voila, we have our shape. So now I'm just going to do the same exact thing with the batting. And this is why I really like this thinner stuff, especially when I'm using this template, because it's still pretty thick when you fold it to be 4 layers. So we're going to put the folded edge. So I have my fold, just like I did there. But you can see how much fatter that is. Well, maybe you can't. See, that's a lot more to cut through. And it would be even more if I was using the Wrap and Zap. Okay, so this one I am probably going to do at least 2 cuts. So I usually go straight, and then I go like that, and I can feel it starting to not cut through all the layers right there at that curve. So then I just go straight off like that, and see, it didn't quite work. And then I'll just come back in. I figure if I have to do it 3 times to get a pretty good curve, it's better than having it really not work as well. But we don't have to be super particular about it. But the better all 4 layers cut, the better it is going to line up with the fabric that we cut. All right, and that, because you are like I'm moving this so much, that is why I really like this rotary mat for this project. Because if I had to move this like this, it would be a lot harder to keep it all lined up consistently. Okay. Oh, okay, we have more news from Leela about her fabric test. She lit it with a lighter. Yeah, I mean, if you set cotton on fire, like with a flame, it's going to burn. But it's not going to catch fire in a microwave with normal use. All right. Hi, Jen. I don't know if you were here at the beginning, but I was telling everyone how excited I was to be inspiring your daughter to be a YouTube star. Made me so happy. So now we have the fabric and the batting cut basically just a teeny bit off to the same size. Yay. So you would do that twice. I'm only going to show you how to do the one half, and I have pre-prepped the other half so we won't be here all night. Then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take a ruler and you're going to draw a diagonal line. And I'm just going to do diagonal, diagonal. If you want to do fancier quilting, go for it. I don't really think you need to do it. You can see in this one, there's diagonal line, and I sewed them with thread that matched, so they kind of blend in, but that should be plenty. You might want to do a little bit more if you're doing the big one, but we're just going to go for, let's get these done, because all of a sudden everybody's going to want them. And then I'm going to take a pencil and draw that line. Now, another way I've done it is I have tried a Sharpie, and so that when I'm sewing, the fabric is on the bottom and the fleece is on the top. Oh, and another thing to note, because this is folded, you can kind of see where the center is. And then if you put these points on the 3-inch mark on your ruler, you're going to get pretty much right down the center. So you can do this either way. I think their directions say to draw it on the front. I kind of like doing this because then I'm not putting fleece on my feed dogs and getting as much fuzz in my sewing machine. And you can see it a lot better. So you know what? We're going to do it. We're going to do it my way today. Then I just throw some pins in here, far enough away from the lines so that they're not, I can just keep sewing and I won't have to take the pins out. Actually, I lied. We're not going to do it my way. I would do it my way if I had blue bobbin thread, but I don't have blue bobbin thread ready, and I don't have blue bobbin thread in my sewing machine. And who wants to wait for me to do a bobbin? So we're going to do it from the front. Whoop. Oh, thank you. Is it Layla? Yeah, Kate, I'm with you. No, we're going to fleece in my feed dogs for the moment. And I will say, whenever you're doing this, you definitely want to clean your machine pretty regularly. All right. Now, when it comes to thread, we talked about how it needs to be cotton, but let's talk about color. So you can do different things with color. Like I just showed you, you can have the color, the stitching blend. So the stitching isn't showing up, right? It's not glaring at you. I hope I did another example. And I actually even did that in this one. I used cream and green and brown so that it wouldn't show. Apparently that's my preference. I thought I did one where it didn't match. Yeah, that one still pretty much matches. Anyway, you can visualize. Like if I were to do brown, you know what? Okay, sorry. We're going to go back to the other way because that's going to show you what I thought I could show you. I have brown in my bobbin, so I'm going to sew on the top. I'm going to pin really fast. Sorry. Be patient with me, you guys. It's worth it because then you can see all the options without having to do your own testing. All right, now I'm going to switch over to camera 2, wake my sewing machine back up. And I do have a walking foot on my sewing machine, which basically, like, you got the feed dogs on every sewing machine down here. And then a walking foot basically puts extra feed dogs that come from the top. So it helps move everything. It's not as important on this step, but it is going to make a difference when we sew this all together. So I'm just going to sew down these 2 lines. Now, if you were making a full one, because I'm only making half of one right now because I already made the other half, or you were making multiple, you could daisy chain these, which basically means instead of stopping and cutting the thread like I just did at the end of each one, you could just move from one to the other, if you're not familiar with that term. So I have that sewn. I got to figure out how to mute myself for a second. Okay, I think I'm back. I muted myself so I could cough, and then I cut. Not. So scrim, somebody wants to know what scrim is. Scrim is, I wrote it down. It's basically, so scrim is basically some polyester threads that get woven through the batting to help it be stabilized. And with batting, you kind of get what you pay for. So you also need to pay attention. Let me grab my thing again. Okay, so, sorry, didn't get all my coughing done. So you also need to pay attention to stitch distance. So this one, I can stitch 10 inches apart when I'm doing the quilting. I have it now flying around. And everything will be good. So I could, stitch 10 inches apart. I can wash the quilt. I can love it. I can use it, and it's going to be good. Now, if I had a less expensive batting and it said stitch distance 4 inches apart, I've seen anywhere from 4 to 10 inches. And I stitched 7 inches apart or 10 inches apart with that. Over time, and especially with washing, you would start to feel the batting coming apart inside the quilt and the project. So scrim is just something that they put in there to kind of help stabilize it all. And the more and the better the scrim, the farther apart you can quilt. Okay, back to, I'm trying to get consistent about which cameras I put on which things so they don't have to pay super close attention every time. So here is this is the back. And then here's the perfect example of using an alternate thread. So you really see that, and that's going to become kind of part of the look of this bowl cozy. Whereas this one, it's blue and it's not noticeable at all. So totally personal preference, as long as you're using 100% cotton. That is my only non-negotiable for you. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to fold it. Now, one thing I love about this is the darts are pre-cut. The template cuts them for you. In the tutorial where I show you how to make this, you're grabbing a ruler and you're measuring 1 inch over and 1.5 inches down, and you're drawing lines. It takes a lot more time. Definitely worth buying this template just to not have to do that. So we're going to fold this together with the fabric right sides together. And that is going to line up these 2 darts. And now I'm going to take you back to the sewing machine. We're going to sew each dart, so these 2, and then once they're sewn, we're going to like a cootie catcher kind of. Open it and flip it that way and sew the other two. And again, if you were doing more than one, you could be daisy chaining this, but we're just doing this one. And if you're not familiar, when I say daisy chaining, it would mean putting another one in right now, and you would only have like 2 stitches in between each of them, instead of cutting, pulling it, and having this big piece of thread and everything starting over again. Now, one thing to notice, and I got to make sure you can see it. Sometimes when you fold this, this part, the fabric in here, gets a little folded, like it doesn't stay flat against the fleece. So whenever I do it, I always kind of put my finger in there and make sure everything is flat and not puckered, because if it's puckered, you're going to get a big old pucker on the outside, but it is on the bottom. So if you do, life is not going to end, but it's just something to know. It's one thing I love about sewing. I really cannot think of many life-altering things that could happen other than cutting yourself really bad or sewing through your finger. So these 2 sides are done. So it's like a half a bowl. So now I'm going to fold it the opposite way, and it doesn't fold as flat, obviously, because we have these sticking up. So just kind of look at that one, line them up. You can kind of feel there, make sure that that fabric is nice and flat, and then sew these 2. And I'm telling you, you should make these for everyone on your holiday list. I have made these for some people, and they text me almost every time they use them. Or like every month, like, oh, we're using these things again. We love them. My husband stole mine. Can I have another one? Hey, can you make me a seasonal one? These are like definite crowd pleasers. Or if you like to sew and sell stuff, I think these would sell really well. I don't know what you would price them for. I would say, I don't know, at least $10 to $12. You'd have to look at what your material costs are. So now we have this all puffed up, just like this one. I'm just going to cut some of these threads off. So you don't have to cut the darts, you don't have to trim the darts, it's just nice and quick. Now the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to require my fabric clips. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Do you guys have fabric clips? Let me know in the comments. I love fabric clips. They never poke me, and they're really quick and easy for projects like this. Now, before we clip this together, I always check the outside, because every once in a while, like you don't quite cut it right, and there's maybe a 1/4 inch of fabric beyond the fleece. You want it pretty lined up. So you would just trim a little bit. Like I could just see trim like this a little bit. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip one inside out and keep this one right side out. Does not matter which, because these are, again, reversible. And I'm going to put that inside so the fabrics are right sides together. And I'm going, oh, you know what? Hold on. I lied. I'm skipping a step. We have to iron, and I didn't even turn my iron on. So this is what we need to do. We need to iron these open so that they aren't all bulky and bumpy inside. So let me just do that really quickly. Actually, you know what? Nope, I already made one of these. So we're just going to go with this one. And I ironed it. So make sure you do that step of ironing those darts open. We will need the iron again, but we're not going to get slowed down yet. So now you're going to line up the bottom of the darts. That's what you do first. So you put a clip at each dart. If you don't have clips, you can use pins. I just find these to be so quick and easy. What are you? finding these to be different size. All right, keep on going. Okay, so Mary has clips, but she uses them to hold labels more than for sewing. And yeah, I definitely use them more for when I'm doing quilting. I don't use them much. I usually use pins because you have to be a lot more precise. But for a lot of my other projects, like this especially, I'm a clip girl. So we have the four seams lined up. And then as you can see, I'm just kind of moving it and making sure it's all organized so that it's evenly dispersed. And now I'm going to do that look at the other side thing again, and you can see this one is pretty far. We're going to do a 1/4 inch seam. So I am going to trim that because I really want these to be about the same size. And nobody's going to come through and know that I trimmed anything. Wait, what do I do now? So anyway, you can do that. Then I always put a clip on each top. And now when you are sewing, sometimes you get on a roll and you don't realize where you are, right? You don't realize that you're close to the front. Okay, so Suzanne has seen these for sale in the New Orleans area, and they're usually $10. Okay, well, there you go. People always ask me how much. I'm like, I don't know. I haven't sold them. So we do need to leave a section open for turning. And it's a little bit of a bear. I'm not going to lie to you. That's the one thing about this is turning it right side out, because I only like to turn on straightaways and I try and avoid turning on curves whenever possible. So this is where I'm going to turn it. And you'll notice I put 2 clips here because I'm going to start here at the dart. And I'm going to sew all the way around. And when I see 2 clips, I know, ooh, I'm back to the beginning, because I have been known to sew all the way and then had to get out my seam ripper, blah, blah, blah. I know that's what they're for, but if I can avoid using them, I do. So now we're going to go back to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew and give you a couple tips as we go. So tip number 1, well, I don't want to not, well, no, I can do that. Tip number 1, we're going to start at that seam line, and I'm going to go forward and back to a few, like, I'm going to go more than I normally would, because there's going to be a lot of pressure on that. So see how I basically sewed that forward. There'll be a lot of pressure on that point when we go to turn this. And if you don't do a lot of curves, just go slow. You can, and if you also feel like you're not getting a good curve, you can decrease your stitch size. I'm using a 2.4 right now, and it's working very nicely. Now, when you get to your next dart, sometimes it sticks up a little bit, right? Like that's not going to want to go under the foot. Do not use your finger to hold it down. Use the tip of scissors. I keep these scissors. I used the sticky part of a command strip, and I put a circle magnet on the front of my sewing machine. And so these scissors live on my sewing machine because you constantly lose scissors. So I always have them, and I get very upset when I move them away from my sewing machine. Now I'm going to stop where my needle is in the seam. So it's right in that seam line. I'm going to lift the foot, and I'm going to turn or pivot. I like to call it pivot. It's my own sewing version of Ross from Friends and his sofa. So you kind of look at this as sewing 4 individual sections. Each curve can pretty much lay flat like that, and then you're pivoting in between each one. I didn't do a very good job pressing that, but it's more the fleece that you want, or the batting that you want to have open. It's more important than the fabric. All All right, and if you guys are asking me questions, I can't see the comments while I'm at the sewing machine, so I will answer you when I'm done this part. And ask anything, there are no stupid questions, and this is way more fun for me and everybody else if we are chatting and you're basically telling me what you want to know instead of me assuming and guessing what I want to tell you. Okay, so I hit those two, and now I'm going to stop there. I'm going to go back and forth and cut that. And I almost left my sewing machine with the scissors. Now we have to clip all these curves. You can tell how excited I am about it. I hate clipping curves. So, traditional way to clip curves is to take scissors, and you might want to like cut a little bit closer, and you just kind of snip, snip, snip from the outside to just before the stitching on all those curves. Takes forever, and it starts to hurt my thumb. But that's like the traditional way to do it. Here's my cheater way. Well, first, the cheater way doesn't work in this part. So I do use my scissors, and sometimes I can't quite get it to close when it's really thick like that. So I'll just really carefully cut from further down the scissor without cutting the stitching. So I'm going to cut into here. And the reason you have to clip curves like that is because when you turn it right side out, you need the fabric to open a little bit, because if it's solid, you're not going to get a good curve. Let's see. Okay, hold on. New to using batting, seam ripper. Yeah, seam rippers, gotta love them. Oh my gosh, they're so, yep. Ah, Marina, you read my mind. We're going to use pinking shears, but I can't ever get the pinking shear to go quite over this really fat part, so I do that first at the darts. I love pinking shears. And I love these Fiskars pinking shears because they're way easier on your hand. They're called, shoot, what are they called? There's a link under the video to them. I think it's like quick release or I don't know. So I always use pinking shears to cut curves. And I like to do it right over my little trash bin so I don't end up, especially for this, with fuzz and fabric all around. So using pinking shears, you're just going to go around, make sure you do not hit the stitching, and trim those. It's so much easier on your hand. Oh, I did get it on that part. And that's why I love these too, because you're squeezing like this. It's a lot easier on the tendon of your thumb than a more traditional scissor where you put your thumb in a circle and your finger in a circle. That was a very unpaid advertisement for Fiskars. Any kind of scissors that they have that have this action, I own. That's from back in my scrapbooking days in the early 90s when I first discovered that kind of scissor. Now, do not cut your opening, because if you were to cut along the place where we need to turn this right side out, you wouldn't have enough to press inside and stitch. So you always skip the part that has no stitching. That is super, super important. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to just turn this right side out through this very tiny hole. And the way I like to do it so there's less pressure on where it is sewn together is you push the first part under and then take this spot, right, where it's stitched, and flip it over like that. So it's facing down, and you do that on both sides. And then you're not going to put as much strain on that stitching as you pull this all right side out. Well, this one's going pretty well. I really fought with one the other day. Then just use your fingers and kind of rub them along those curves to start getting that turned right side out nicely. Whew, that iron's heating up. Okay. Now we're going to press, and just like with the sewing, we're going to look at it as 4 different sections. So let me get my iron over here. I did put water in it. I often just use it without. And I'm using a wool pressing mat. I don't know if you have used these before. It basically helps push the heat back up. So when you're doing quilt blocks, it's great to get a really crisp, precise fold. And for something that's thicker, it just helps it really crease better. So I'm going to do this first curve first, and I just lay it down so that it's pretty flat, like that whole little piece of the pie. And then I go through and I rub back and forth with my fingers to make sure that seam is on the edge and that curve looks really good before I ever touch it with the iron. And I don't have one of my favorite things, my quilter's clapper, handy, but we don't really need it. Okay, so then I'm just going to do all 4 of these. I do the 3 that don't have the opening first, and I do the one with the opening last. How are you? Welcome. She's often at a meeting and didn't think they would want to listen to me live at her meeting. Whatever. All right, so everyone in the United States, you got big plans for Thanksgiving. Will you be elbow deep in a turkey next week, or are you going to take some time and come play with me? My sister-in-law is always in charge of Thanksgiving, so I was like, I'll just do it for anybody that doesn't have anything going on Wednesday night. And then in December, I'm going to do a Saturday. I had someone from England ask me, can you please do something where it's not the middle of the night for me? So December 7th will be my 5th live sewing for holiday thing. Okay, so now we're to the part that we have to do a little bit more work. So first I'm going to press the half that is sewn really well. And then I'm just going to, and this is a little bit on the curve, not a lot. We basically just need to get that folded under a 1/4 inch. It wants to go under more. And make sure that part, like right there on that edge, gets all tucked in. But you'll see it's a little bit straighter. So you just want to fuss with it before you press it, because once you press it, it's harder to fix it. It's easier to just fuss with the shape now. Okay, we're just going to call that good. Oh, Linda, are you having Thanksgiving a day early? Because I am doing it on Wednesday. I'm not doing it on Thanksgiving night. I'm doing it the night before. I wasn't sure if that was going to be a good or bad thing. So now we have this all pressed. I'm going to take it back to the sewing machine, and our last step is to simply sew around it. Okay, somebody clear this up for me. Is this called top stitching or edge stitching? I swear people tell me both things. So if you know the difference between top stitching and edge stitching and would like to fill me in and everyone else so that I know once and for all, please drop that in the comments. I was looking at this and I noticed like it's very puffy here at these darts because I didn't really iron that. So I'm going to go get that flat. You want that as flat as possible for not breaking your needle. Okay, now I'm going to turn this hot. All right, back to the sewing machine. Top stitching. Thanksgiving lasagna. I want to come be with you. Oh my gosh, that would be my dream Thanksgiving. I'm going to suggest it. It's going to get laughed at, but I'm going to suggest it. I would love that. We always got to pick our dinner for our birthdays growing up. And my sister and I always picked lasagna. And my brother always picked meatloaf. And my sister and I swear that he did it because we don't like meatloaf. And he says, no, he really wasn't that aware, but he just likes meatloaf. All right, so because we are top stitching or edge stitching or whatever, sewing around the outside, and you will see the back, we're going to do the pull up the bobbin trick. So I'm holding the top thread, put my needle down, keep holding the top thread, pick my needle up, give it a little tug. So now my bobbin thread, which happens to be brown, because I have brown on this other side, so I'm doing 2 different color threads so that they blend in with the sides that they're sewing. And now I'm holding my top thread and my bobbin thread. I'm going to do like 2 stitches or 3, and then I'm going to go backwards. And that's going to happening on the bottom of the would actually on the outside of your project. So now I'm just going to sew around. Did you see how that wasn't really moving very well? Walking foot was not activated. All right, I don't know if you can see it from the angle, but there's here that kind of goes back and forth. And I'm just going to go really slowly. Now, when I get to this dart, it is really thick and hard. So I'm going to go really slowly so that I don't break my needle. If you want to change your needle, you might want to try like a jeans needle because they're designed for thicker fabrics, but I did not do that. So we're just going to go slow. And we're going to stop, just like when we sewed them together, we're going to stop right in that seam and twist or pivot and then keep going. You can go a little bit faster when you're on the curves, except I went so fast I wasn't consistent. Oh well. We're going with done is better than perfect. Now here comes another big old lump, so I'm going to go nice and slow. Pivot. So what this is doing is it's going to give it a more finished look. It's going to make it hold together better if you ever wash them, and you will. And you're going to get really sad the first time somebody gets spaghetti sauce in theirs. My husband got in big trouble when he did that. But as my friend pointed out, it's fabric, throw it in the laundry. I'm like, okay, whatever. But this is also going to close the section that we used for turning. Now, I hope you can see that this is where we started. And I always cut these threads off before I get back to the starting position on any of my projects because we have taken such care to not have a bird's nest under here that I don't all of a sudden want that to get caught up in the top and make a mess because I wasn't paying attention. Just clip that off. All right, look at that. I'm so happy it's done. So as I showed you in the beginning, these are reversible. So I can have the bowl here, or I can have the bowl here. Either way, wear it as a hat. Actually, could be a cute hat for baby. So that's it. That is how it works. It's done. Now let's see. Yeah, I make up a lot of funny sewing terms. And yes, this is going, I'm just looking at the comments again. The live stream will be on my channel, so you can always go back and watch any of it again. Isn't that pretty? This is my new fabric from, it's called Let's Get Lost in the Woods collection. And I don't know if you noticed, I usually try and have a quilt behind me for whatever fabric I'm using in my projects, but I don't have quilt done for this yet, so I just hung up the panel. Isn't it cute? I like it. A good day in the woods ends with a happy soul. I think that's my favorite one. All right, so now we need to do something to pick a winner because, as I mentioned in the beginning, the very nice people at Creative Grids have agreed to give away a template set. And they're going to mail it to you because she's like, oh, I can send it to you. I'm like, how about you just send it to whoever wins instead of mailing it to me and me mailing it? That's more chances for things to get messed up. So, oh, put a bowl in it so you can see. Yes, where's my bowl? So there's a bowl. And this is how you use it if you weren't here at the beginning. It's like a built-in pot holder. So you can put that right in the microwave. I usually put like a silicone cover over whatever's being microwaved because then it's less likely to blow up and end up on your fabric. And then you just pick it up by the corners and move it. If you eat at your couch, it's great if you're having soup or anything hot. Sometimes people will use these for ice cream as well. And then I don't have a bowl with me. I should have brought up a big bowl, but I forgot. This is for a nice sized bowl. So my recommendation is like your mashed potatoes, but it might not be big enough for your Thanksgiving mashed potatoes. So, okay, if you're still here and you want to win the templates, type in, I love Creative Grids. We'll just give them a shout out since they're being so nice. And then I will announce the winner at the beginning of next week's live. You don't have to be here live, especially because it's the day before Thanksgiving. Just if you have said, I love Creative Grids and you want to win this, if you can't be here live next week, make sure you look at the replay and I will do it at the very beginning. And if you win, then you'll just email me and give me your address and everything and I will get it to them and they will get this to you. So I hope that you guys had fun. I think this is a fantastic project. I can't even tell you how many of these I have made. I will be back next week, which I've mentioned many times. And we're going to be doing mug rugs. So these are like 2 examples. This is just a real simple one. This one upside down is kind of a quilt as you go. I haven't decided exactly. I think I'm going to show you kind of the quilt as you go. And then I did mention in the beginning, and I'm going to mention again, if you love like these tutorials and how I teach and everything like that, I love teaching. I have just launched a membership program and you can try it for $1. You just go to sewwithtarareed.com/$trial. There's a link below the video and you can go in and see what it's about. So it has a lot of the projects that I've done on YouTube, but it's going to be ad-free. I'm working on getting all those videos up for you. It also has all the PDFs with the printed directions. So often I will put things on YouTube and maybe on my blog, and then I'll sell the printed directions on Etsy. If you're a member of my Sew with Tara Reed, you won't have to buy anything from me on Etsy. I'm working on that too. And then there's lots of tutorials. I'm basically building what I wanted when I learned to sew, but I learned to sew in the olden days when you had people and books and nothing like this. The technique library is something that I think is going to be super useful. It's like 1 to 5 minutes at most, little videos that show one technique. So if you were to say, I don't remember how she pulled up that bobbin thread, but I know I want to do it, you wouldn't have to scan through this live that's a little bit over an hour. You could just go to the technique library and watch the video how to pull up with the bobbin thread and then be on your merry way and doing all that stuff. So I'm building that. Would love to have you join me. And we're going to do some exclusive lives at least once a month in there too. And all right. So this is next week. And have a wonderful evening. I feel like I'm very red. It gets very warm in here with all of these lights and the steam on the iron. But it is the price we pay for creativity, right? So I'm going to sign off now, and you can still sneak in a couple I Love Creative Grids if you haven't done that yet. Have a great evening, and hopefully I will see you next week.